Have you noticed that this show doesn't have any commercials? I'm not selling you diapers or vitamins or smoothies or gasoline. That's because I don't want any corporate sponsors telling me what I can investigate or what I can say. Instead, you are our sponsors. This is a production by our nonprofit, the Informed Consent Action Network. So if you want more investigations, if you want landmark legal wins, if you want hard-hitting news, if you want the truth, go to ICanDecide.org and donate now. All right, everyone, we ready?
Yeah! Let's do this.
Action. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are out there in the world. It's time for us all to step out on the high wire. And wherever you are in the world, I might have been right next door to you recently. I find myself coming into the show having just been in an airport. So much traveling going on right now. On one hand, totally awesome to be seeing the world, seeing how our message is spreading around the world. But I will say, and I don't know for those of you out there in the audience that find yourself in a career that has you flying all the time, remember when that was the American dream when we were kids? Like that meant you were successful? Like that was like the sexy lifestyle, the jet setter? What a crock that was. If I don't see another plane for the next week and a half, it'll be too soon. Anyway, it's been great meeting all of you around the world, and I'm hoping to get a little time with the family, settle down a little bit, because it has been a lot of travel. But speaking of, I was just in London, and for the first ever CPAC conservative conference in the United Kingdom, and it was quite an event, amazing people, and really a celebration in recognizing that medical freedom really seems to be turning into a pillar of the overall concept of freedom, at least in the conservative groups, and this one celebrating all the way out in England. Take a look at this.
Please welcome to the stage our chair, CEO of Informed Consent Action Network and host of The High Wire, Del Bigtree.
Well, thank you everybody for being here this morning. I want to thank CPAC for hosting this very important conversation. A lot of people want to just say COVID's in the rearview mirror. We've moved on. I don't want to talk about it. Do we need to talk about it?
I think we absolutely have to talk about it. Also, I think we have to say there's no such thing as the science. Remember that terrible term?
When we think about freedom, what other thing has ever happened in the world where every single nation worked in lockstep against its own citizens and took away their rights? Some of the people I have on this panel today are those that really did stand up during COVID. Dr. Laszlo Boros, what is your opinion about the safety of the COVID vaccine that was injected into the entire world?
In my 25 years of working on RNA, as well as other metabolites, what we learned is that if you want to do anything with RNA, you shouldn't modify it, you shouldn't stabilize it, and you shouldn't inject it. They did all of that. If you ask me as a medical biochemist, it's beyond a disaster.
When did medicine become this top-down bureaucracy that decides what's working versus the doctor? Why were they stopping doctors that were claiming to have results and having answers?
People don't know and understand that the European Medicine Agency is actually funded by the pharmaceutical companies. There was also by the EU formed the HERA, which is the Health Emergency Preparedness and Response Agency. And this agency gets 30 billion euros per year, and it doesn't have to show proof where the money goes actually.
What should we have learned from the COVID experience?
We need transparency. If they will give us transparency, give us the data, have independent scientists as ourselves or myself, so we could look at the data. The problem is that it has been manipulation and propaganda, and like scientists, independent scientists haven't been heard.
We have all the people it has ever taken to change every political system in the world. We have the control, we have the power, we have the numbers, but we must use our voice now. Thank you very much. There's a really powerful panel there at CPAC. I want to thank that panel that many of them flew in at the very last minute. It was a sort of a late arrival there. Dr. Maria Hubner-Mogg and Dr. Laszlo Boros. We also had Viveke Manike and Alan Miller, who ran a great organization called Together Declaration that really stopped the COVID mandate from happening in the UK. So just a great panel, great event. I want to thank Matt Schlapp and his beautiful wife, Mercedes. He's the chairman of CPAC, and his wife, Mercedes, did a powerful panel on the grooming gang. So it was just really overall a fantastic experience. And then I ran into Liz Truss, who, apparently she's aware of the work that we've been doing, and we hit it off there. So it's amazing to see, former prime ministers even. There was a potential prime minister from Australia there, very interested in the topic of medical freedom, and much awareness there of the work that we've been doing in the High Wire. So for everyone that has made this possible, all of you sponsors out there that have been donating to, make this show possible, to also make the legal work that we're doing through Erin Siri possible. But I just want you to know, we are actually shifting consciousness and thought around the world. It's been very exciting to see that and be a part of it. We have a great show coming up. I have an amazing guest, Tyler Hudson, who actually used a moment on X Factor to spread awareness about autism. We're going to get into his story and his journey with his son. But first, it's time for the Jaxen Report. All right, Jeffrey, what do we got this week?
All right, Dal. Well, for the viewers out there and you and I, if you use social media, you probably understood that eventually your data is being tracked and sold, and that gives these companies valuation. But something's happened slowly, but now very quickly throughout the rest of our neighborhoods and our streets. That surveillance has now moved to the physical on lampposts and light poles all around our cities. And over the last couple of weeks, it seems like a fever pitch has been hit all over the news. People are pushing back against something called flock cameras, flock surveillance. And it looks like this.
Flock cameras are back on the news.
It's a debate intensifying across the country.
I would like to ask for an immediate removal of the cameras and for the contracts to be canceled as soon as possible.
Your community is telling you that we don't want this.
The cameras capture the back of vehicles, plates, make, model, color, even unique details.
They record the information about the car, including where it is and when it was there, and then they put it into a database, and this is where it gets really scary.
And then an AI algorithm catalogs the make, model, color, license plate number, bumper stickers, and even scratches.
Critics argue the cameras have created a mass surveillance network.
I think it should be a wake-up call for all of us about the vulnerability of the technology that is being used to scoop up our data.
No more automated license plate readers of any brand. This technology is anti-democratic.
This is an invasion of privacy. It is an invasion of privacy without probable cause. Government doesn't have the right to search you unless it has really good reason.
And that is in my opinion, a very un-American take on privacy and the way that we engage in criminal justice enforcement.
This issue, Jeffrey, you're really now stepping on my last nerve. It freaks me out that we are here. I was reporting on the potential for facial recognition cameras back when I was on the doctors over 10 years ago, and now we are literally facing this reality.
And it's interesting because the public has been primed. The books by George Orwell, 1984, all of these, all the dystopian movies, we've seen this coming, but a lot of people are saying, well, it's here now. And if you believed in informed consent and bodily autonomy, like I would imagine most of this audience does, you've seen this coming. This is not a stranger to you because we were ahead of the game when the vaccine passports came out during COVID. That was the first digital asset that tracked people's movements and allowed them to go in or kept them out of venues and locations and pubs and stadiums. And it was so good, even though COVID's over, the WHO said this. It adopted the European-style COVID-19 vaccine passports as part of the new global digital health certificate. Because I guess they were so good, we're going to keep using them. But throughout, as you saw in that news montage, throughout cities and towns, people are going to their boards, they're protesting, they're trying to stop these cameras, these flock cameras, they're trying to get them out of the cities. And in Syracuse, New York, it worked. Here's the headline here. Flock Safety removes its license plate readers, finalizing 8-month breakup with the city of Syracuse. But there's only one problem with that. Just a little bit after that headline, the same news outlet had to report this. Syracuse lawmakers approve contract with Axon license plate readers, plan to block flock safety from city streets. What's Axon? Well, here's their promotional video. Take a look.
All right.
Today, we're excited to announce our collaboration with Axon Lightpost, creating together a powerful streetlight-based platform for video surveillance and LPR. Here's a brief video to show you how we do it.
This is what's so scary. It's a lot of what I've been talking about as I'm traveling the world, saying we are just seconds away from the, living in an open air prison if we don't do something. And it's a lot of it's commerce, right? It's not even our governments. It's that Silicon Valley's companies, they just see a future. They know this is where it's going, and they're competing to make it cheaper, faster, in order to surveil us. And I think when I look at these companies, don't you have kids? Are you literally just going to sell your children into an open air prison so that you can make $1 to do what? To live in that prison with your kids? It's really incredible. And, I'm glad there's people, finally recognizing and starting to push back on this.
And you can see here, I guess like shark teeth, there's company after company after company rushing into this space because that's where the money is, in surveillance. And people can and should be protesting at their local city councils and trying to change this at the local level. But perhaps the only remedy to this may be, that barbaric relic of the Constitution. And this is an investigative article here talking about the Fourth Amendment. So it's saying the Fourth Amendment is being liquidated by subscription, talking about these private surveillance companies that are offering subscriptions to cities, towns, police departments. And their goal is to scale as fast as possible and build these out. That's why these flock cameras just came out of nowhere. I mean, you can't get the roads fixed. It's impossible to do that. They don't have money to fix the roads in your town, but they can build these out behind everyone's back, and all of a sudden they're all here. And in this article, it says this: instead of beginning with an identified crime and gathering evidence about a particular suspect, Flock created a system in which the movements of thousands of innocent people could be collected continuously, stored and searched after an investigation began. Flock expanded beyond subdivisions into apartment complexes, schools, hospitals, retailers, corporate campuses, and municipal roads. The company now markets interconnected cameras, audio, drone, and investigative systems to police agencies, businesses, and private communities. This architecture allows privately owned cameras to become nodes in a law enforcement network. So that's right, even your schools, your local supermarket, they're surveilling. They become part of the subscription for safety, and now Flock basically integrates all of that for the police, and it's always running. They're always filming. That's what's happening right now. So something happened in the Supreme Court, a long-awaited decision. This is Reuters looking at digital surveillance. It says every phone leaves a trail. Supreme Court holds location data is protected by the Fourth Amendment. Now, this is not flock data, but this is your cell phone data. Remember, this was used during COVID to track people. And this is what the Reuters article says about this Supreme Court decision. Justice Elena Kagan wrote, writing the 5-justice majority, concluded that, quote, location history Data generated by smartphones receives Fourth Amendment protection because it provides an extraordinarily detailed record of an individual's movements. The court characterized this capability as a virtual panopticon. That's what the Supreme Court justices called it. That could be used by the government to scrutinize its citizens' activities and provide an intimate window into a person's life. So it wouldn't be it's a hop, skip, and a jump to think that these flat cameras would also fall underneath that because of that constant surveillance into people's intimate lives. It's not just one picture they're grabbing all location details of people's private travel, their private details of their life. This is what's going on across America. And again, companies are rushing in to secure this space as market share.
And when you think about it, Jeffrey, one of the things that I felt was a protection was you just never have enough manpower to go through like millions of hours of footage of cars driving by. But now with AI and, you know, the ability for computers to be tracking this, and if they're building data, that's what the data centers are for, is to just allow these machines to start creating algorithms to follow us, then to predict what we're doing next. It's really, you know, as I said, wake up, everybody. It's here. It's right around the corner. Do we want this? Is this the world we want to live in?
Exactly. And as we've been taught throughout our childhood and all the way up through school, expediency, safety, none of these things supersede the Constitution and the rights in this country that we have. So I want to move into some food conversations here. And there's a lot of great news happening out of Florida. Where else? It always seems to be happening out of Florida, but we have the Attorney General there who just held a press conference. Take a listen to this.
This morning, we're here to announce that we have initiated an investigation into potassium bromate. It is a chemical compound and it is an ingredient that is used in a lot of flours and baked goods that are sold across the United States. It has also been linked to many forms of cancer. It is a possible carcinogen. It has been banned around most of the world. And unfortunately, here in the United States, it is likely still in the food that you at home eat. We will be issuing subpoenas to companies that do buy and sell products with potassium bromate in them. We will be starting with General Mills and their subsidiary Pillsbury. And the list will likely go on from there.
I'm actually watching people get sicker. I'm watching families having difficulties having babies. I'm watching kids get cancer. I'm watching cancer that was never seen before at ages be seen. And so what we need to be doing is exactly what Florida is doing.
Our states have broad consumer protection authorities. Here in Florida, these subpoenas will be issued pursuant to our authorities under the Unfair and Deceptive Trade Practices Act.
It was fun to see my good friend Ben Rawl in there. Great chiropractor, great activist out there in Florida. In fact, just to not get us too far off track, but I'm going to be in Orlando at an event he's putting on. I believe it's August 28th. There it is. Or 29th. I'm sorry, 29th. I'll be there most of the days, so definitely check that out if you're out there in that area. But what an amazing story. How ubiquitous is this product?
Well, it's everywhere in the United States because we don't ban it here. California banned it, Utah banned it in school lunches for children, but otherwise it's free game. And like a lot of the chemicals that we talk about here are additives and contaminants. It hasn't been looked at by the FDA since the 70s, so it needs a desperate reevaluation. And while we're waiting around for that, the Attorney General in Florida is acting. And throughout the 80s, research, especially Japanese researchers, they knew that this was causing cancer in a dose-response relationship. So the more you had, the more cancer it would cause in animal studies. So the International Agency on the Research for Cancer, IARC, they put out this in 1999 and said definitively this was a carcinogen. And they said in rats it produced a renal tubular tumors. That's kidney cancer. Carcinomas, it says thyroid follicle tumors in animals of each sex, and peritoneal mesotheliomas in males, and then it goes on in mice and hamsters. Similar situations, just cancer, kidney cancer, and that's where it stands. The U.S. said, hey, no problem, keep throwing it in the food, in the bread, and it's a flour additive. It makes bread more appealing. It makes it stay on the shelf longer. It makes the dough thicker. When the bread cooks, it makes it more appealing. It looks better. It looks browner. So obviously, you can't test this in a study because you can't just go around and give kids this potassium bromate and then have kids that don't eat potassium bromate and say, well, let's study this. So we have to look at studies like this that aren't animal studies, looking at bakers. These are bakers in Central Africa. The researchers looked at just a bunch of people that are baking the bread with this potassium bromate in it. And you go into this study, and just a real quick caveat, this is from the study, and it just reminded people at the beginning of the study, hey, by the way, these are who banned this additive. You can see the European Union, 1990, they didn't even wait for the Cancer Agency to act in 1999. United Kingdom, same thing. Nigeria, Canada, Sri Lanka, Brazil, Colombia, you can see China, Australia, New Zealand. A lot of people are banning this thing, not the United States, but it goes on in this research to talk about these bakers, and it says in the current study, every one of them, all the bakers have experienced symptoms of potassium bromate toxicity, which are indicative of oral and nasal exposure routes. So they weren't eating the bread that they're baking just because they're cooking it and baking it in the steam in the kitchens. It's going in through, it's aerosolizing and going into their lungs and their throats, and they're experiencing toxicity from that, which is incredible in this study. But then it goes on to look at the cancer incidences, because we know from a dose-dependent relationship, you don't want this in your body. And there's a very, very low limit, a bunch of zeros with a 1 in front of it that you should have. And so what they looked at is the limit you should have. And then they also looked at how much bread people consume per day in this area. And they said this, from the hazard ratios, the chances of having cancer from an average daily consumption of either simple bread, milk bread, or French bread, those are the breads they looked at in this study, are approximately, and they give some numbers here, 290,000 in 1 million, 220,000 in a million, 190,000 in a million. But we broke that down in a simple chart here. And if you go all the way to the right of this chart, here is your incidences of cancer during a lifetime. If you eat that bread, 29% chance, 22% chance if you're eating the milk bread, French bread, 19% chance. So basically about a quarter, about 25% chance average. If you eat bread during a lifetime, you're going to get cancer. 25% of people eating bread in that country from those bakers, according to this study, will get cancer, some type of cancer, most likely kidney cancer, according to the catalogs of research we have on this already. So you're probably not going to want to wait for Florida to act on this. If you're in Florida, you can just do it right now and not have this stuff on your shelves. And we were going to put together a really nice infographic to show, well, here are the products that you don't want to eat, you want to avoid. But there's so many of them. We just went to the environmental working group's searchable list, because there's 681 products in the United States that have this potassium bromate in there. You can go to this, search for your products that you regularly buy or what's on your shelf, and maybe if you want to decide to go a different direction, this could be your navigation, your compass to do that.
It's really, I mean, I don't know how many people out there in the audience, if you're watching right now, have you absolutely had it with seeing every other country that bans these things and finding out that America, that is supposed to be the greatest nation in the world, is the last, always behind everyone else, that we are being poisoned by government agencies? The FDA, you said, was it 1970s was the last time that they looked at this product, even while the rest of the world has recognized it causes cancer? And let me guess, they can't do a human study because that would require actually giving this toxic poison that is killing rats to adults and children, then those that don't get it. So they can't do a study. And so since they can't do a study, they say, well, we have no evidence. That's rats. We have no evidence that this would happen in human beings because we can't do a study. God. Sorry, I promised I'd be calm on this issue, but it is so infuriating and so insane that in America, of all places, you know.
Yeah, and so there's clearly a food additive and a chemical problem we have going on here, but there are some solutions. Obviously, it starts at home, but there's a lawsuit now going through on a food product that doesn't have a label, that's strawberries. If you ever looked in the supermarket or in your fridge right now and you found a company, Driscoll Strawberries, one of the largest strawberry producers in the United States, well, this is the website, and this is the headline. Driscoll Strawberries contaminated with forever chemicals, lawsuit claims. And you go into this lawsuit now, a caveat on this, these are the conventional strawberries that are sold by this company, not the organic. Organic are governed by an entirely different labeling structure, which limits the amount of type of pesticides you can put on them. But you go into this lawsuit, and it reads this: had plaintiff and consumers known the true facts concerning the strawberries, including the presence and or use of PFAS-related compounds, those are forever chemicals, they would not have purchased the products or would have paid significantly less for them. So that's what the lawsuit says. Now,
I love that line, right?
As though
like, oh, this causes cancer? I'll buy it, but just reduce the price a little bit. I mean, I don't think anyone is thinking like that, but I get the point. All right.
Yeah. So anybody following this conversation throughout the years of contaminated fruits and vegetables with these pesticides and forever chemicals, they know that strawberries are the low-hanging fruit, so to speak. So you can see this headline, over 90% of the strawberries for the entire nation are grown in California. So when you see this headline by the Environmental Working Group, forever chemicals contaminate nearly 40% of non-organic California-grown produce, you can probably guess which way this is going to go. This lawsuit is a really great thing. It says 37% of non-organic or conventionally grown California produce samples had residue of pesticides that are forever chemicals known as PFAS. Strawberries contain 10 individual PFAS pesticides, more variety than any other crop. So this Driscoll lawsuit is kicking down the door with the easiest target. If this door opens, you have so many other fruits, cherries, peaches, a lot of other fruits are conventionally grown are contaminated with these forever chemical pesticides. The EPA just released 3 more into the system. So this is a start of a legal battle that could turn this around really quick and hit the margins of these suppliers. It's got some legs on it, and we're keeping an eye on that for sure.
It's getting really scary out there. I mean, my wife and I have purchased Driscoll, but I think we tend to lean towards the organic. Do we know if their organic products are having this issue, or is it mostly in the non-organic section?
It's all non-organic for the
non-organic.
Yes.
So unfortunately, for the people that aren't buying organic or don't even have that option in their store, they're being poisoned by where we get our vitamin C, where we get our antioxidants. These products are supposed to be there for our health. You're freaking me out this week, Jeffrey. These are issues that just really, I think we're all so tired of it. And it's why, we're hoping Robert Kennedy Jr. can do something in there. But again, a lot of this is EPA, right? Not necessarily under his jurisdiction. FDA is. We're going to send this report to him, and I'm going to personally say, Bobby, can we get on top of this somehow? Anyway, let's just talk really quickly. This last Monday, you had the Virgin voyage of the download. So amazing, getting great reviews. But what was it like? Show all there on your lonesome, Jeffrey.
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of spinning plates going on when that camera rolls. I feel like an octopus doing a lot of things before and after and during the show. But it's fun. It's amazing to just jump into the news cycle. We're going to have a massive show this Monday. Anybody wants to know where to find it, a lot of people have reached out to me saying, where am I finding this? I'm hearing that you have a show. This is right here, right where you're watching The High Wire. It's going to be the same channel. You can find it on X, Rumble, YouTube as well. And that's at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on Monday. So please tune in. It's going to be a barn burner this Monday.
Also, I just want to let everyone know, a lot of you reported it was great getting that text message. If you're not receiving text messages from us when we're going live with a show like Jeffery Jaxen's or on The High Wire, all you have to do really is just text. You just text 72022 and write in the name, my name, Del, D-E-L, and we will give you a link where you can sign up. You don't have to pay anything just to be told when we're doing something. And I think this Wednesday, my understanding is there's going to be the Fauci hearings with Rand Paul. I'm considering doing a little maybe sort of sit in and banter and comment on what we see going on there. So look, go ahead and sign up. We'll text you and let you know when that's happening. We're going to be streaming that live. But those are just the types of things that maybe we don't even talk about on The High Wire, and you might miss if you're not, sort of signed up to what we're doing. But anyway, Jeffrey, it was a great show. Look forward to, your continued success there. I had a lot of great reports, great reviews. And we're just really happy that you're doing that and people get more interactions with you and the work here at The High Wire. So super appreciate it.
All right. Thanks,
All right.
I'm looking forward to it.
Take care. I'll see you next week. So it's amazing how in media there's these magical moments. And there was one that happened where a contestant on X Factor decided to use that opportunity to spread awareness about autism. Take a look at this fantastic moment.
Tyler, tell us about your family. Are they here with you today?
My family is here with me today. I have a 5-year-old son named Lyric. I've got a 3-year-old daughter named Loxley, and I've got one due next month. And my beautiful wife, Libby, is backstage right now with him, keeping him contained. And my son is actually he's special needs. He's been diagnosed autistic. So when we moved back here to Australia, I had to stay at home with him.
I got you.
My son was about 18 months old, and we'd noticed he'd progressively started slowing in his speech and social behaviors.
Where is she? Where is she?
We had taken him to a pediatrician, and in the process had realized that he was on the autism spectrum scale. We didn't know what that was going to mean. I knew that I needed to be available for my family. So what I did was grabbed my guitar, learned a few cover tunes, made a few demo CDs, and started going around to the pubs in Echuca trying to pick up some work on the weekend. I would love to stop playing in pubs. I'd love to start playing my own music.
So you're like Dad of the Year. Well, I'm sure you're going to do them proud today. I hope you're great. I hope you're great.
Me too. Jury's still out on that one.
The jury's still out.
I'm not crazy, I'm just a little impaired. I know right now you don't care, but soon enough you're gonna think of me and how I used to be.
Well, I had no idea that happened all the way back in 2013, but I have been talking about the fact that the world is changing. As I turn on my social media, it used to just be the high wire. It used to just be me talking about vaccines and autism and things like that. But now, as I've said, my feed is filled with all of these great new voices. And one of them was this guy, Tyler Hudson, that started popping up in my feed with amazing connection to this conversation about vaccine injury, a reality around autism most people are afraid to share. And so we decided to get to the bottom of who is this guy. So we sent a team of our producers and directors out to Tasmania to do a little backstory. This is the story of Tyler Hudson and his family.
Growing up in Pampa, Texas, I was a church kid, learned to play music in church band, and that just ignited a passion in me for music. I had a high school band, we traveled around, and I had always had a fascination with adventure in Australia. 2 weeks out of high school, I hopped on a plane, started studying music at a Bible college in Sydney. I fell in love with Australia, fell in love with the culture, and fell in love with a beautiful young Australian. Libby and I got married. We always wanted to be parents, and so when Libby surprised me with the magic wand, telling me she was pregnant, we were thrilled. The pregnancy with Lyric was totally normal, other than the fact my wife legitimately wanted to name him Optimus Prime. And we compromised on Lyric because I'm a musician. The closer to the birth that we came, the more excited we got. We just couldn't wait to be parents. And I remember day one, with my son Lyric in my arms, this precious little baby that you can't believe that that you made this. This is half of me sitting here in this precious little human. For the first year of his life, he was meeting all his milestones, laughing, giggling, crawling, began walking. At about 9 months old, he began start speaking, saying mom, dad, truck, cow. We went in for all of our checkups, received all of our vaccinations on schedule. So when we took Lyric in for his 12-month checkup, that's when he received his MMR, pneumococcal, and varicella vaccines all on the same day. That marks the beginning of when he stopped developing. The words that he had disappeared. He would no longer make eye contact with you. It was hard to get his attention. He'd look straight through you, just sitting, chewing on a stick, staring off into space, and he just seemed unsettled. By the time he was 2, we clearly knew that something was indeed going wrong. We'd received the referral from our GP, and she observed Lyric in his natural environment, had a few tests that she conducted with him. She says, oh yeah, he definitely has autism. And it's like a sledgehammer to the chest.
Off to school, off to school.
For the next few years, you were just taking it one doctor's appointment at a time, naively trying to get our son verbal so that he could go to school. Because you still don't understand the reality of profound autism. As I began doing my own research, I knew that the vaccine schedule aligned with our son's regression. He was still not speaking. He had severe gut dysfunction. So for the next few years of our lives, we just continued doctor's appointments, therapies, interventions, diets, traveled all over the world, anything and everything, be it spiritually, medically, nutritionally, whatever, to mitigate the struggles that he was facing, trying to produce a miracle for our son. And nothing's changed at all. The message being told to us was to stop striving and learn to be at peace. And that was devastating news for us because I had to let go of fighting. And I was actually ready to, because I was tired of relating to my son as a problem to be fixed. And I had enough. I knew I was at a crossroads. I could go with plan A, unplug from society, disappear into the Tasmanian wilderness with my son, never be seen from again, or plan B, I could try to change the conversation. I could speak up, I could let my voice be represented, because I wasn't hearing my perspective represented anywhere in the autism space. I'll lose followers over this one, but I don't care. It needs to be said. Autism awareness has become autism acceptance. Should the autism spectrum be split? Hell yeah!
Being a parent of a profoundly autistic child, you deal with a lot of things, but the one constant is poop.
One time, I have shared a meltdown. I had people calling me names. I had people saying, oh, you shouldn't post that. You've got no problem me posting the cute little stories because it makes you feel good about, oh, yay, we're accepting of autism. Are you accepting of autism if you don't look at the shadow side that parents suffer with and deal with every day?
Today is my 324th wedding. My son will be an adult and I'll have paid off my mortgage. If you're doing it tough, hang in there. I've had so many dark days, but today I'm really excited to get started in the season.
We will look back on this time in history in 50 years, and it will be obvious what the cause of autism was. Come on, let's be brave, and let's look for a cause.
He's the author of this brand new book, The Missing Lyrics, A Father's Story of Autism, Grief, and a Society in Denial. This book pulls no punches. It is actually very refreshing to have someone not dancing around this topic, and I'm honored to be joined now by Tyler Hudson.
Pleasure to be here, Del. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for writing this book. Thank you for, I've been watching on social media. You are really swimming upstream in a world that is really trying to whitewash this conversation. And I have rage over it. I've been deep in this. I've met so many families, but I'm not really allowed to be the one because I don't have a child going through this. But for you, what is this moment like as you watch your journey there?
Yeah, pulls at all the heartstrings. There's no doubt about it. We live, as that package showed, in the Tasmanian wilderness. And that was part of our process with just trying to come to peace, to have as many controllable factors as we could. Where is Lyric happy? He's happy in nature. Well, let's go live out in nature and let's unplug from society and let's just learn to be happy. And he is a beautiful, beautiful boy. He's non-speaking. Yes, he has all the comorbidities that come with autism. And
like what? What does that mean? For someone who's watching isn't experiencing.
Well, there are biomarkers to autism, but autism is diagnosed based on behaviors. So what we've seen happen over the last, since the DSM-5 in 2013, is you now have adults self-diagnosing as autistic, creating YouTube channels, telling the world about what it's like living with autism. And who I never saw represented in any form of media was a child like mine, a child that was nonverbal, self-harming, requires significant support. And slowly, our experience has just been diluted out of the autism conversation because it's not a conversation society wants to have.
Yeah.
Because I believe that we are in denial about the autism epidemic and nobody wants to have the difficult conversations. So looking back on that package, I can see myself going through these stages of grief, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and finally when you arrive at acceptance, I just can't disengage from trying to make the world a better place for my daughters and their future children. And that's why I decided to write the book, because in 50 years' time, I can't live with myself if I don't be truthful about our experience. And there's so many families out there that don't have the capacity to create a video or be online to try to have these conversations, because they're in the absolute trenches dealing with children that are far worse off than mine. And so I just had to begin to speak up and let our perspective be heard.
It's been a long, I mean, first of all, this book is brilliantly written.
Thank you.
It's rare to find someone that can so honestly share their experience. And if anyone is feeling abandoned right now in this autism journey, that are, have a child with the type of autism you're talking about, and we'll get into, I think the spectrum is so vast now, there is a group that's being left behind. But even more than that, I think this book, it's like reading anything. It doesn't have to be my story. It's your journey through grief. It's a journey of empowerment. I kept thinking of the prayer of serenity, right? Give me the ability to change the things that I can, to accept the things that I cannot, which is just what we all grapple with in life. And we watch that in your family, your relationship with your wife. You're so honest, and there's other issues that come up in your life, but when we all go through difficult experiences, I have said, though, with the families I've spent, I don't know many that can compare to raising a child that is severely autistic. It is a 24-hour-a-day journey. What was the hardest part? This is a journey of grief. What is the moment that stands out as being one of the most difficult?
I think as in the early days, you hold on to hope so readily because you think that you're going to grab your child by the hand and you're going to walk out of this diagnosis together, that you are somehow going to find healing, you're going to unlock it, whether it's spiritual, medical, whether it's new therapies, whatever. And you can only live in that state for so long before it just produces an insurmountable amount of angst in life. And that's part of that anger and bargaining stages of grief. I describe them as these spinning plates. You just keep denial, anger, bargaining, all of them spinning at the same time. If you let go of any one of those things, your whole life just comes crashing down.
When you say bargaining, what do you mean by bargaining?
So bargaining for me represented as how I processed my son's diagnosis was that, okay, God made my child this way for a reason. You begin participating in these mental gymnastics to make sense of the situation. And I believe that society is caught up in that space as it relates to autism. We don't understand it. So the next best thing is just to try to, what happens is it gets sanitized. We say, oh, autism is a superpower. Well, it might be for that person. It's not for us. There's no evidence of savant-level telepathic communication going on with us.
Well, I mean, your son can't live on his own.
He can't live on his own. And when you realize that, okay, he's now 18, he's an adult, there's nothing between 18 and 80 for him, that changes the conversation a lot. In society, there's compassion available for the small child that everyone knows has a disability. But what about when he ages out of that and turns into an adult, and now his behaviors are perceived as can be perceived as threatening? How does he function in society? That he will require significant support for life. And that was probably the most significant portion of our grief journey was the acceptance and the depression of what came with that.
I think about that a lot because I've been on all sides of this, of course, making Vaxxed. I interviewed many, many families and thousands on the journey of traveling with that film. But I struggle because on one hand, there's a lot of great breakthroughs. everyone comes up to me, I want to get on your show, I have the cure to autism. So I mean, I try to imagine what it's like as a parent to hear that.
My inbox is full of cures.
Yeah. And maybe one of them is out there, but I've watched the parents that have tried every single thing they've come in contact with, and there are some that are successful.
Yeah.
Or at least to a degree. They move their child out of severe autism, get them speaking, manage to even maybe get them into college. But I struggle even with those stories, because what I don't want to say to the audience is we have found the cure. I mean, until there is one that works for everybody, because I imagine parents out there like you, and I try to imagine, you see some people having success. I am trying that, it's not working. I'm trying that. What is that journey like? Especially, I think in men tend to leave in these situations because we're fixers. And once we feel like we can't fix it, the sense of failure overcomes us, and many mothers are left with the autistic child alone. So good on you for staying in there.
Well, that journey is very real, and for me, that manifested in itself that I didn't feel like a good dad because I couldn't solve the problem. After years and years and years, none of these miracle cures worked for us. I'm so glad that they've worked for other people. But at the end of the day, my son didn't need a mentor. He needed a carer. And that role typically falls to a mom, particularly in the earlier years. And so I chased significance, and the only profession that didn't confront me with my inadequacy, and I just worked. I threw myself into work and said, well, whatever the future holds, we're going to need more money. So, sweetheart, you got the kids. I'll go take care of the money. And it nearly cost me my marriage, that season of grief for us. And these are conversations that we don't have in the autism space because they're too confronting. Society doesn't want to talk about them. I got a comment this morning. The term cure was used, and they said, please don't use the term cure. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. How about bringing order to disorder? How about lessening someone's struggles? Even the word cure is offensive, and the autistic community has done such a good job of creating awareness and creating inclusion that it now becomes about policing the words that we use in order to talk about lessening someone's struggles. And when you get a little bit older and you look at it generationally and you're starting to look at things in the timeline of decades, you think, why would we want to suppress information that could help limit the prevalence of autism for the future? Yes, there's a genetic component, but genetics is just the rug of mystery that everything we don't understand gets swept under. Lung cancer was once solely genetic. In 50 years' time, I believe it will be self-evident what contributed to the causes of autism in our society today. Not for everyone, but that leads itself to greater distinction in the spectrum as well. It's very possible my child doesn't have autism. He has symptoms from a vaccine injury that are identified as autism. It may not be autism. We don't know, because there's less and less clarity in the spectrum, and that all of these voices, it's a cacophony of chaos at the moment, and we need greater distinction so that we might limit this condition for future generations by mitigating their exposure to factors that contribute to autism.
Well, I will say, given the definitions as I know them, and given, let's talk about severe autism, inability to speak, I think would be...
That has to be the main criteria.
It has to be a main criteria. And it's really been a disservice. Though I am sure the, DSM-5 broadening this category, expanding to include Asperger's, where a kid can be valedictorian of a university and go on to make hundreds of thousands of dollars as a scientist or mathematician or something like that. I guess, I know there's services that must be made available because they still have difficulty in their childhood to get to that point. And so let's just, give everybody services, but it has just made it so that people like you are not allowed to speak your truth.
Correct.
I'm sure you know I had an opportunity to be Director of Communications for Robert Kennedy Jr. He and I share a passion on this along with you. I want to speak to sort of what happens when you're trying to have a conversation, how nuanced it's being forced to be. This is Robert Kennedy Jr. as HHS Secretary.
Autism destroys families. More importantly, it destroys our greatest resource, which are our children. These are children who should not be suffering like this. These are kids who, many of them were fully functional and regressed because of some environmental exposure into autism when they're 2 years old. And these are kids who will never pay taxes, they'll never hold a job, they'll never play baseball, they'll never write a poem, they'll never go out on a date. Many of them will never use a toilet unassisted. And we have to recognize we are doing this to our children, and we need to put an end to it.
He came under incredible, here's just some of the headlines from that. Say, mother of autistic children calls RFK Jr.'s autism claims almost laughable. DREDF denounces RFK Jr.'s comments on autism as hateful, harmful, and uninformed. Many in the autism community say RFK Jr. is pushing harmful and regressive rhetoric about who they are. It goes on and on and on. And honestly, I spoke to him after. He's like, I was no longer directing communications. He's like, oh boy, Dale, I really blew it. He was like, no, you did not. No, you did not.
He spoke the truth for families like mine, and I thank him for doing that. And that speech is what ignited that book, because I thought, finally, someone in authority is taking this seriously. This is fantastic. First of all, where's the lie? You would struggle to find parents of a profoundly affected individual that disagree.
Which is clearly who he's describing. He's not describing the Asperger's, so why are they putting themselves, when the families around, I don't mean to put that down. I get it. This is what's so hard, but he is clearly describing profound autism there.
He spent 20 minutes talking about profound autism before those hurtful remarks.
Right.
But the media manufactured outrage towards those hurty words and incited rage against the higher functioning, that they became the focus of it, not those most profoundly affected who do not have their own voice to advocate for themselves. He was speaking up for them. And when I hopped online after that speech, I was ecstatic. I thought, yes, we're finally going to be pursuing studies that will help children in the future. And then I saw the outrage, the media manufactured outrage towards those remarks, and an advocate I had followed for years, and I quite looked up to her quite a lot. I thought, surely she'll help calm the storm, and said, this is just dirty old politics. But instead, she shared an article that said, keep my son's name out your mouth. And she was furious that RFK was suggesting autism was a problem that needed solving. And I'm like, I can't believe this is the world we're living in. And I was this close to just unplugging and disappearing into the wilderness. And I thought, I cannot let my girls raise their future children in this society that is so backwards and twisted and is not looking at those most profoundly affected and looking to help those kids, but we're more worried about offending those with higher function. And that's where it is a minefield trying to navigate this spectrum and advocacy, because we want to celebrate people with autism, and that absolutely we can, but we conflate that with celebrating the disorder itself. And autism becomes a superpower.
And let's be clear, it's a disorder, autism spectrum disorder. So, celebrating, and I know that the agenda behind that is being funded by the most powerful lobby in the world, the pharmaceutical industry. Because I know, they know, that I know.
and we know, and if you know, you know, but there's so many people that don't know.
And how do you explain those that are in your boat that have severely autistic children that get angry at Robert Kennedy Jr.?
I explain it off as politics. I can't believe that autism has become political. If he had a D in front of his name, there would probably be no issue. If the same thing were happening under Obama, he might receive a medal. But because it's happening under Trump, it just shows to me the political side of it. And you know who's oblivious to that, or you know who can't communicate about their thoughts? The ones we're meant to be advocating for. And that's where I just had enough, and I had to lift my voice, even if it's just for a time. I just had to put my truth out there for people to access, to say, this is how I got from here to here. Here's the map of how you process this journey, if you're interested. It's not an easy read. It's very difficult. We try to have fun along the way.
I will say, it's actually beautiful, though. It isn't, you know, we're sort of hitting the frustration part because you're triggering frustration that I have.
Yes.
I'm happy to be returning to this conversation of autism. It's been a little while. There have been people that have said to me, Del, you know, the work that you're doing, you're now, you know, I've grown. My audience has grown. I started with vaccines and autism. Now I'm traveling the world. Why don't you let go of autism? You've got the COVID vaccine injuries now that are much easier to talk about with adults. We are seeing the autoimmune disease crisis. It's not as divisive. And I have said it many times, I will never drop autism. This is the greatest crime against humanity. The families that find themselves in it, this stupid high wire that you are being forced to walk on is not fair.
Yeah.
But it's not just you, and it's not just being a parent. It affects the siblings, you know, the children, your neurotypical children are, you know, have got to think about their lives, but it also includes their brother because they don't just get to have the 1,000 dreams to walk off in the sunset. In fact, your daughter wrote a really beautiful poem about this. If we can share it, I'd love to do that.
He's 17. 17, caught at the top of each evergreen. He's never been to a party, never walked into a friend's house. He won't ever say his vows or have a spouse. He loves cars, mumbles about them like prayers, but he'll never drive one. Not here, not like this, not with a system like theirs. Neurosparkly, not broken C, but tell that to him, not me. If I could cure him, I would. See, acceptance looks really nice on a t-shirt until your kid bites himself so hard he bleeds, until he has to take antipsychotic meds to leave the house. The help he needs doesn't come from prayer beads. If I could cure him, I would. If only we could. I love him more than hands could hold, but that's why we fight until we're old. If there were a switch, I'd flick it. It's something no one should go through. For the sake of my kids, I'd turn it off if I could, wouldn't you? It's not love to let him suffer, not love to stand still. It's love that makes us fight for a cure, a life, and a will. As his sister, I cried till my eyes ran dry. Tears I thought I should hide. Maybe I'm the bad guy. Just accept him, they chant on repeat. Instagram makes his pain look sweet. Autism is a disability. On TikTok, it's chic. But where's the space for those who can't speak? He's the happiest boy, just let him be. But he's not the one choking on grief, it's me. It feels like they want him frozen, some untouched art, but I want him living with a voice and a heart, and sneaking out, yelling at games, kissing lips, not trapped in routines and medicine scripts. To fall in love, to drive, to speak and be understood. If I could cure him, I swear to God I would. Not because I don't love him, but because I do.
Powerful. So what is the goal now?
Leave the world a better place for that girl's future children. And that means having tough conversations. No parent wants to be writing this book, and it's an honor to be here, but no parent wants to be up here telling our story. That how different life could have gone for us. And I have to process that grief in my own life. My daughters will have to process that grief in their life. And I just want to do no more harm. And I have to be honest that if we think we've reached the pinnacle of human intelligence and we are making no mistakes in our modern practices, God help us. Like, science advances. What's true today is a matter of dates. It began as madness, was then grudgingly considered, then became consensus, then became truth, then became self-evident truth, such as smoking and lung cancer link. It was considered madness. So much so to the point that by 1960, only 1/3 of doctors in America believed there was a link between smoking and lung cancer. It is now self-evident. We will look back on this time in history and it will be self-evident what was contributing to the prevalence of autism in our society, and we have to speak the truth about that.
Yeah.
The goal for me is to maximize the time I have left with my son as we grow to be old men together. We've just started spelling to communicate.
Wow.
And we're 2 weeks in, we're working with Dr. Dana Johnson in Florida. And my communication partner last night sent me an email, said, I didn't get it on video, but Lyric did all of his spell words. And then so how it works, they put the pencil through the letterboard, and you look at this person who's not speaking to you, and I've never had a conversation with him. But he's answering these questions based on a lesson that we've read. And then there was a little section that it's a prior knowledge question. So this isn't information I've just told him. This is information he might or might not know. And the question was, who invented the iPhone? And Lyric put his pencil through the letterboard, Steve Jobs. And these are people society assumes has an intellectual disability because they don't have the capacity to communicate, and that's how we gauge cognition. That's how we to find out how intelligent a person is. So again, it's that vulnerability that comes with hope. Oh, spelling. That's just another thing I'm going to try that's not going to work for us. What if my son's the only one it doesn't work for? Mm-hmm. But then having read Underestimated by J.B.
who I said to you earlier, you remind me in your writing, he's a spectacular writer too. I loved the honesty, I loved the passion, the feeling, but yeah, he had the same concerns and fears about getting into it.
Yeah, and because it requires a vulnerability that's exhausting. And we will live with that for the rest of our lives. And always trying to produce more capacity in our child, not so that he can be like us, but so that he can advocate for himself, so that I can learn about what his life is like. He's 18 years old and I've never met him. Truth be told, I don't know the thoughts that are inside. I know they're there. I say that Lyric's, the lights are on, someone's home, but he's far too busy in there to come to the door to let me in. And, through the miraculous work that these practitioners are doing in learning spelling to communicate, we're learning to lower that cognitive demand, balance the motor planning issue, and find out, oh, he's coming to the door. He was there all along. So my plan is to get to know my son. I hope that the next book is called Finding the Lyrics, and that it's written by both of us, much like JB and Jamie. Like, that's the goal. But how much easier to not have to force parents to hack into their children's brain? How much easier to just solve the problem at its root, which is to limit the prevalence of autism in society. In Australia, where I live, 1 in 6 school-aged boys is receiving funds from the National Disability Insurance Scheme for autism spectrum disorder.
Wow.
1 in 6. Wow. There's not enough of the pie to go around. And who pays the price are those most profoundly affected, like my son. And it's not about taking money away from people. It's about looking at it honestly and going, where does this end?
Yeah.
And exposing the cognitive dissonance that say, oh, autism is just evolution. I'm like, well, when has evolution ever required disability support funding? And if we start funding genetic variables, when do you stop?
Yeah, and by the way, kids that need sometimes 1 or 2 teachers just for themselves. Yeah. How does the society, how are we going to be able to afford that? How are we going to be able to handle that? It's a spectacular book. I want 2 things I want to ask you. I want you to stick around for off the record, because I know you start out with a really strong, powerful, Christian value you met in church, but that journey, has gone through some twists and turns. If we can get into that and off the record, but will you stick around? Will you sing a song for us at the end of the show?
Yep, absolutely.
So why don't you stick around and do that? You don't want to miss this book. It's, not just if you have a child that is, on the spectrum or certainly severe autism, but just the journey itself is inspiring for what we all have to face. You get to see an incredibly brilliantly described and emotional journey that Tyler and his family has been through. Is really great. We have 20 signed copies that you can find at our bookstore. And if you buy that book, we'll also give you a free Faraday bag, one of my favorite things that comes along, so that you can make sure that the conversations you are having aren't always being listened to. But definitely check out this book. If you're able to be one of the lucky 20 that get a signed copy, great. But you can find it where on everywhere the...
It's on Amazon, self-published on Amazon, and the audiobook, which I read myself, I've been getting a lot of feedback that's probably the best way to consume the book, because I put a lot of my personality into it. I try to make it fun because it's such a heavy topic, so we do have a lot of fun along the way. But
well, I feel like this show today is a lot about the lies that our government is telling us. Certainly their absolute disdain for doing decent science or protecting us. We have a legal update that's going to blow your mind, but let's revisit one of the great lies told during the COVID pandemic. Take a look at this.
Pfizer announced today that its vaccine is safe and 100% effective.
The FDA says Moderna's vaccine is highly effective and says there are, quote, no specific safety concerns.
Johnson & Johnson's vaccines have been studied extensively and are safe.
Every single vaccine available in Canada has been approved by Health Canada as being both safe and effective.
If there's one message that needs to cut through all this, the vaccines are safe. I promise you.
What the vaccine is doing is just helping your body do what it naturally does. It's not doing anything different. It's not changing who you are.
These vaccines have been given to billions of people in the world. And so we have an excellent safety record. In the world of medicine, the word safety means that the benefits have to clearly and definitively outweigh the risks, and we know that to be true here.
When you are offered a vaccine, you should take it because it means it has been studied and has been determined to be both safe and effective by all the best authorities that we have.
If you watch this show, that's got to be as hard to swallow as it is for me right now, knowing that most of those morons on the news didn't even know what they were talking about, never read a single study, had no idea what the technology was, what mRNA meant, and yet they told us all it was going to be okay to force all of us to take it. But our legal team is always bringing FOIA requests, which is at the heart, it's the sort of the beginning seed that we plant to get to the bottom of what appears to be some misinformation coming from the government. We had a bombshell this week. Let me read this to you. Emails now reveal NIH officials knew about and opposed publicizing cases of neurological injury after COVID-19 vaccine rollout. If you are on our newsletter, if you've signed up just at the middle of the page on our website, all you have to do, you get this for free. You'd be reading this article. You'd be ahead of me on this because this came out before we're talking about it now. But just go to there to Brave Bold News and just sign in there, and you get these legal updates for free, along with all of the evidence, all of the links to books and studies that we talk about on this show. We are totally transparent about where our information is coming from, and you decide if it's credible information, if it's peer-reviewed, and all of those things. I'd like any other network to try doing that. But I reached out to Erin and Siri recently as we're really wanting to tighten the show and deliver you as much information as impactfully as we can. I said, Erin, can we start getting some of the legal team? There's a great big legal team now working on our behalf. So instead of me just talking about those legal updates, we're going to try and get some of these fantastic attorneys that are doing this work for us. So it is my honor and pleasure to be joined by another Erin, an Erin with an E. Erin Bello joins me now. Erin, thanks for joining us today.
Del, thank you so much for having me on your show. It's a real pleasure and honor to be here today.
Well, I want to thank you and all of the great team that you're working with, Erin, over there. But tell me about these emails and what we've discovered. First of all, what was the request? How did we make that request, and how long has this taken?
So we submitted FOIA requests on behalf of ICANN in 2023 for documents related to, it was many years ago, documents related to these internal discussions regarding COVID vaccines, COVID vaccine injuries, right after the COVID vaccine rolled out. So that was in 2023. Those FOIA requests went ignored. So in 2025, again, on behalf of ICANN, we brought a lawsuit to produce those documents. And on your screen is a copy of that complaint that was brought on behalf of ICANN. So the documents that have recently been produced have been extensive. So we've learned a tremendous amount from these emails that were exchanged from top officials at NIH right after the rollout of the vaccine. And it's been profound what we learned.
What are some of what's the totality of these emails? What story is it painting right now as we look at this?
Sure. I would say the biggest kind of overall revelation that we learned from these emails is that top senior officials at NIH leadership were discussing reports of very serious neurological symptoms and injuries from the COVID vaccine, or that appeared right after the COVID vaccine, very early on after the vaccine rollout, while at the same time they were having internal discussions about how pursuit of that information and following up in those reports could actually increase vaccine hesitancy and what they were calling a social media overreaction. So what struck me, though, Del, is that these were not hypothetical discussions in the emails. These were reports from a senior neurologist who was documenting very serious neurological conditions in dozens of patients, dozens. And we're talking conditions like POTS-like symptoms, transverse myelitis, other neurological conditions. They were
Here's
aware.
one of them. Here's one of them. This is, Dear Walter, please see attached manuscript form as a letter based on experience of neuropathy-like symptoms in 24 patients. The main message is that early recognition and treatment with corticosteroids can reverse the symptoms. Although some will spontaneously get better over several weeks. Please let me know. That one right there really enraged me because we worked so closely with React 19. And, all of the, Bree Dressen there and all of these people that have been injured, and they're all describing this neuropathy that they've been getting gaslit by the FDA, and she was in the trials. And to think that they're seeing that with their own eyes, they're talking, you've got Francis Collins involved here, you got Tony Fauci, and they're like, you know what? Instead of, taking care of these people, instead of presenting what we know could be a cure to their injury, let their lives be destroyed so that we don't hurt the confidence in this product. Am I overstating that?
I think that's pretty close to, what we saw from these emails was the concern was more about the public perception. Would this increase or decrease rather, uptake of the vaccine? Would people be hesitant to get the vaccine after learning about this? And in fact, Nath actually says in one of the emails that his primary concern and his primary purpose in putting together this report that he was trying to get published was actually to help these patients with different early treatments. So one can speculate, what might have happened had this report been taken seriously. But the discussions that we see through these emails really concern the vaccine hesitancy. They're concerned about social media overreaction. And it's interesting, Del, because as we know, the public story, the public messaging that was being pushed at the time, very different from what was actually being discussed and what was known internally at the time.
I think about it. Let's bring up this email that just popped up. This is another one that was really shocking. It's coming now. Here we go. This is Francis Collins, head of NIH. Hi, Walter. I find this approach very troubling. If there's truly the risk of a cause and effect serious adverse neurological event, that's important to discover. But collecting anecdotes and then trying to build a case isn't scientifically compelling and will have the main consequence of feeding vaccine hesitancy and social media overreaction, which is exactly what you said. But when I read this, I thought about the fact that they skipped the safety trials. The emergency use authorization meant they left the safety trials, so we're going to get no long-term review, really virtually about a week or two after the second shot was given. So we have no safety evaluation. And under those circumstances, in my understanding of how pharmaceutical testing should work, it's not, innocent until proven guilty. You are using people as test subjects. The opposite is true. You must assume that any side effect you are, seeing is caused by this product until you can prove otherwise. And so Francis Collins is living in this, fairy tale world where what is he going to see? To need a million of these to be verified against placebo trials? You are using these on innocent people and forcing them through the Biden administration to take them. And when you see these signals, the way he shuts it down because vaccine hesitancy is concerned, here's the response to that email. This is from Tabak Lawrence. I thought it was me. I don't understand why Walter does not shut this down, meaning I totally agree. Why are we even, embracing this thought? Let them fry, basically. The greater good of vaccinating everybody is what's important here. I know I'm putting a creative spin on it. So let me be careful because you're an attorney, but I think it's very clear what's being written there. What are your thoughts when you read this from a legal perspective?
Sure. What we see here is, again, public messaging versus what the truth actually was, what they knew and when they knew it. So we know that very early on, these reports were coming out. The concern wasn't the actual symptoms themselves. The concern wasn't investigating this. The concern wasn't public safety. The impression from these emails, the concern was vaccine hesitancy and, again, social media overreaction. The broader story here really isn't about the neurological conditions. It's about transparency. So what we were able to obtain, Del, from these emails is we know that what they were saying publicly did not match up with their internal knowledge at the time. And public confidence has to be there. Our government agencies are responsible for pursuing scientific inquiry. Public has to be able to trust that the government is acting in their best interests. These emails tell a different story.
Where would these emails be if ICANN and all of the great sponsors that we have out there that make this possible, if we hadn't brought this FOIA and then this lawsuit, where would this information be?
I mean, from where I see it, Del, if ICANN had not brought this lawsuit, I don't think the public would have ever come aware of these emails. I don't think this information would have ever been made public. We now know that senior NIH officials very early on knew about very serious neurological conditions. We know that their concern upon hearing about those was vaccine hesitancy, social media overreaction. I mean, this is a very serious kind of trove of emails that we have, and they're still being produced. But that's exactly why the Freedom of Information Act exists. So the public deserves to know what is going on in these agencies. They deserve to know the discussions that are being had, how these decisions are being made on their behalf, and whether somebody ultimately agrees or doesn't agree with the outcome of those conclusions. You know, transparency is key here, and ICANN's litigation made that possible in this case.
Well, Erin, thank you for joining us today. I want to let you get back to this important work because I think we've got 90 cases going. God knows how many FOIAs we've sent just this week. But I want to thank you for your incredible work and for enlightening us on this incredibly inspiring, I guess you could call it, discovery. Thank you.
Del, thank you so much, and thank ICANN for this opportunity to pursue this important work. Appreciate it.
You bet. Take care. Well, I mean, I think it goes without saying, sure, you can sit, watch this show and say it's amazing what they're doing. But I want to just say to all of you out there that are donating on a weekly basis or monthly basis, we are doing what no one else is going to do. This would never be happening. We wouldn't be here. And I assure you right now, all of these emails are going straight to Senator Ron Johnson's office. They're going to Rand Paul's office. They're going to those people that are listening. And frankly, we'll probably blanket everyone that's not listening too, because this is how we are changing this conversation. This is how we're going to change the world. And really, I hope you recognize that, your couple of dollars may seem like a trivial amount to you, but if everybody watching right now just commits what they can, we are able to do this. We've been in court, essentially we've been on this since 2023, just this output. When you hear we have 90 cases, some of these, they're in all different stages, but we're planting seeds. They're not all going to produce something, but look at the ones that are. You make that possible when you donate to this work and you donate to help us keep the Erin series, that incredible, brilliant team, bringing FOIA requests, following it up and getting into courtrooms until we get answers so that we can bring hearings against these people. It's treasonous. It's treason. Every story this week, to me, is wrapped in treason. How is it? The regulatory agents, the FDA, the EPA, is knowingly allowing and maybe even helping industries poison our children and their strawberries and their blueberries in our freaking bread. All right? Here's a news flash. Our government in America is not working for us. I say it over and over again. This is a corporate-controlled government. We've got Bobby in there. He's doing the best that he can. I hope, I know his passion. Look what he's surrounded by. But if you aren't, getting involved, if you aren't starting to make trips to your representatives, to your congressmen and women and your senators and saying, I have had it up to here. What are you? Why did you get into politics? Isn't this supposed to be the greatest nation in the world? Shouldn't we be an example to the world instead of following the world? We're like the sewage of the world. We are sucking all the toxins that everyone else is getting away from. I just got the notice. Bring it back, Del. Let me take it down. I love my team. Thank you. Thank you. I was supposed to have let all this out in the green room prior to the show, but I have had it. It's what makes me passionate. What gets me up in the morning is we are going to break the system. We are going to change this system. We're going to get this country back on track. We're going to stop the lies, and we're not going to be afraid to have the conversations that need to be had. You don't get to have the industry that poisons us dictate this narrow hallway of information that I have got to have this discussion in. Oh, you can't use that word. Oh, you can't say that. That's offensive. You know what? We're going to say it. We're not afraid to say it. Go ahead, and if you try to censor me, we'll find another way to get the information out. We're not going to stop. It's too important. It's down to the wire here, everybody. That's why it's the high wire. I knew from the moment we started the show, I said, death-defying news without a safety net. There's no safety net here. Truth doesn't need a safety net. And so as we sign off, I want to give Tyler Hudson the opportunity to close us out, the beautiful song about his experience. So let's do that, and I'll see you next week on the high wire, and I'll tone it down a little bit.
I'm going to sing a song called Behind Those Eyes that I wrote for my son Lyric about 10 years ago, and I think you're going to see clips of him playing behind us. He was 7 at the time. He's now 18. So the message of the song never changes, that I'll always forever trying to be the dad that my son needs. From 18 to 80 for the rest of our days, I'll always be there with him. This one's Behind Those Eyes for Lyric.
They said congratulations on your baby. We're so glad he looks just like his mother. And we laughed as you grew. We dreamed of all you do. Just thankful for our healthy little boy. But by the time that you were 2, a cloud had settled over you. Ooh, the boy we knew had gone away. To have him back, we'd have to wait. Take your time, take all that you need. I'll be there for you. I'll be the dad you need. Let me in your world. I just want to be with a boy that lives behind those eyes. And we searched for the answers to our questions. The doctor says there is no simple cure. And we cried and prayed, God, take this pain away. And we have found that we are not alone. Just know I won't give up on you. I'll do whatever I have to. Ooh, and I'm believing for the day when I can finally hear you say I love you. Take your time, take all that you need. I'll be there for you. I'll be the dad you need. Let me in your world. I just want to be with a boy that lives behind those eyes. And take your time, take all that you need.